Your dog licks your tears, and the reason has nothing to do with taste. Most people cry alone, or they think they do. But if you have a dog, there's a very good chance that the moment your face changed, before the first tear fell, before you made a sound, your dog was already moving toward you. Not startled, not confused. Moving with the specific, unhurried certainty of an animal that already knows exactly what is happening and exactly where they need to be. And when they reach you, they lick your face. Your tears, specifically. Most people file this away as sweetness, as instinct, as one of those small, warm things dogs do that don't really mean anything beyond the obvious. But there is nothing obvious about what your dog is doing in that moment. And by the end of this video, you will never interpret it the same way again. Here is the open loop this entire video is built around. Your dog isn't responding to your tears. They were responding to you before the tears existed. The question is what they were reading and what it reveals about how completely they have learned to know you. Your tears are not just water. This is the part most people don't know, and it changes everything. Human emotional tears, the kind produced by grief, frustration, or pain, have a completely different chemical composition than the tears your eyes produce to stay lubricated, or the tears that form when you chop an onion. Emotional tears contain measurably elevated concentrations of stress hormones, including leukoenkephalin, a natural painkiller your body releases under emotional distress, as well as prolactin, adrenocorticotropic hormone, and cortisol byproducts that your body is actively trying to regulate by excreting them. Your tears, in other words, are a biochemical readout of your internal state. And your dog's nose, with its 300 million olfactory receptors compared to your 6 million, is reading that readout in real time. Research published in scientific reports found that dogs can detect the specific chemical signature of human stress through scent alone, with measurable changes in their own stress hormones occurring in response. They don't just sense that something is different, they sense what is different, and their body responds to it. But here's what makes this more than just a physiological reflex. The detection is only the first layer. What happens after detection? The choice your dog makes about what to do with that information. That's where their relationship with you specifically enters the picture. Because not every dog responds to human distress the same way. And the reason why cuts to the core of what your dog has built with you over time. A study from Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest, one of the leading institutions in canine cognition research, found that dogs do not respond equally to all human emotional signals. They respond most strongly, most quickly, and most consistently to the emotional signals of the specific person they are most bonded to. The attachment drives the response. The science doesn't just confirm that your dog can read you. It confirms that your dog reads you differently than they read anyone else. This is where most explanations of this behavior stop. Dog detects distress, dog responds, end of story. But there's a gap in that explanation that almost no one addresses. Because if detection alone drove the behavior, your dog would react the same way to a stranger crying on your television screen. They don't. They react to you, which means something else is happening, something that took months or years of living with you to develop. Subscribe to Baroon. We decode these hidden signals every week so you never miss what your dog is actually telling you. Because what comes next explains not just why your dog licks your tears, but what it reveals about the internal model of you that they've been quietly building since the day they arrived. There is a version of this behavior that looks like empathy and a version that looks like anxiety. They produce the same action. The dog moves towards you, makes contact, stays close. But they come from completely different places emotionally. And the difference matters more than most people realize, because one of them is your dog trying to regulate you, and the other is your dog trying to regulate themselves. Dogs with anxious attachment to their owners respond to owner distress primarily because it destabilizes them. Their person is the anchor. When the anchor shifts, everything shifts, and the rushing toward, the frantic licking, the inability to settle, that's a dog trying to restore their own equilibrium by restoring yours. The licking is a stress behavior dressed as a comfort behavior. Dogs with secure attachment respond differently. Research from the University of Vienna on prosocial behavior in dogs found that securely attached dogs show targeted, measured responses to owner distress, approaching, making contact, staying present, without the frantic quality that marks anxiety-driven behavior. They are not trying to fix their own discomfort. They are orienting toward yours. The distinction in behavior is subtle. The distinction in meaning is not. What this means for you specifically is this. The quality of your dog's response when you cry tells you something about the relationship you've built with them. Not as a judgment, not as a grade, as information. A dog that reaches you calmly, makes deliberate contact, and stays without escalating is a dog that feels secure enough in your bond to be present for you without falling apart themselves. And the licking itself, that specific choice of behavior, carries its own layer of meaning. Dogs lick as a primary bonding behavior from birth. The first social experience a dog ever has is being licked by their mother. It is the original language of care in their species. When your dog licks your face in a moment of distress, they are not tasting your tears out of curiosity. They are reaching for the oldest signal of connection their biology knows. Applied animal behavior science has documented that licking directed at conspecifics and at bonded humans triggers oxytocin release in the dog performing the behavior, not just the recipient, meaning that when your dog licks your tears, the neurochemistry of bonding is activating in both of you simultaneously. They are not just reading your pain. They are chemically binding to it. The lick is not comfort delivered to you. It is connection established between you. Now here is the question almost no one thinks to ask. Your dog reached you in a moment of distress. They made contact. They stayed. But how did they know before the tears came? Because they did know. If you replay the moment carefully, they were already repositioning before the crying started, already watching with that particular focused stillness that is different from their usual relaxed attention. The answer lives in everything your body does before you cry that you don't notice, because you are busy being inside the experience. Your breathing pattern shifts. Your posture changes. Your face makes micro movements that precede visible emotional expression by several seconds. Your body chemistry begins changing before the tears form, which means the scent signal reaches your dog before any visible cue reaches you. They are not reading your tears. They are reading the moment your body began preparing to produce them. Research in animal cognition published in PLOS ONE confirmed that dogs can discriminate between human emotional facial expressions with significant accuracy and respond behaviorally before the expression has fully formed. Combined with their chemosensory sensitivity, your dog has access to an emotional early warning system that is faster and more precise than your own conscious awareness of what you're feeling. They know you are about to cry before you do, which means the moment your dog turns toward you in silence, before the tears, before the sound, that is not a reaction. That is recognition. They have been watching you long enough and carefully enough to have built a model of you that includes your pre-cry state as a distinct and recognizable signal. They have memorized the version of you that is about to break, and they move toward it. This is the piece that reframes everything, because every layer of this behavior, the chemical detection, the licking, the early movement, the staying, it all points to the same conclusion, and it is not the conclusion most people reach when they think about why their dog comforts them. The standard story is that dogs comfort us because they are loyal, because they are good. And all of that is true, but it is incomplete. Because what your dog is doing when they reach you before you've cried, when they lick your face with that deliberate calm, when they press their weight against you and stay, is not generic goodness directed at a human in distress. It is specific knowledge of you, accumulated over every day they have spent in your presence, applied in the moment you need it most. They have watched you enough to know your pre-cry breathing. They have mapped your scent changes with enough precision to detect the hormonal shift before the emotion surfaces. They have learned, through repetition and attention, what it looks like when you're about to come apart. And they move toward it, not away, not into confusion or distance, toward it. With everything they know about you, they choose to move toward the version of you that is most vulnerable. That is not instinct in the reflexive, automatic sense. That is attachment that has been built into something specific and deliberate over time, your dog's accumulated knowledge of you, expressed in the only language they have. When your dog licks your tears, they are not tasting salt. They are telling you that they have been paying attention, that they have been watching and learning, and building a picture of you that is detailed enough to catch you before you fall. The tears are just the surface. What's underneath them? The recognition, the movement, the staying, that is your dog telling you that you are known. Fully, specifically, without condition. And that there is nowhere they would rather be than exactly where you are.